Good morning, Farmville Church of Christ. It's a wonderful day out there. It is the day that the Lord has made, so our job is to rejoice and to be glad in it. Love y'all, glad to be coming to y'all. And we'll start off with a song. We will walk with the Lord in the light of His word. What a glory He sheds on our way. While we do His good will, He abides with us still, and with all who will trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Not the burden we bear, not the sorrow we share, but the joy He does richly repay. Not a grief nor a loss, not a frown or a cross, but it's blessed if we trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. In fellowship sweet, we will sit at His feet, or walk by His side in the way. What He says we will do, where He sends we will go. Never fear, only trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. I'm forgiven because you were forsaken. I'm accepted, you were condemned. I'm alive and well, your spirit lives within me, because you died and rose again. I'm forgiven because you were forsaken. I'm accepted, you were condemned. I'm alive and well, your spirit lives within me, because you died and you rose again. Amazing love, how can it be? You, my King, would die for me. Amazing love, I know it's true. It's my joy to honor you in all I do. I honor you. I'm forgiven because you were forsaken. I'm accepted, you were condemned. I'm alive and well, your spirit lives within me, because you died and you rose again.
This morning, I would like to both enhance and broaden our lesson on people of faith. In order to gain valuable insights from a particular passage or a verse in God's Word means that you have to surround the surface and then dig a little bit deeper down into the passage to explore greater meanings of what this passage may be saying to you, so that we gain some very powerful and insightful lessons that allows us to see both information, facts, or even something that is newly gained, or at the very least may be more insightful. Our focus of attention last Sunday centered around Hebrews chapter 11 and chapter 12. As you recall, Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1 would be the launching pad propelling us to much greater heights. Let me read it for you again. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1 says, "Now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see." And the key words are sure and certain. That allows us the opportunity to be greater to the Lord, to one another, by faith. As you recall, this particular passage allows us to see things from a much different perspective, because throughout our lifetime, you're going to accumulate information or data. You will become much wiser or more knowledgeable about certain things like lessons learned or certain mathematical equations or skills gained, and on the list could go. Meaning, of course, is that you know certain things to be 100% accurate and true. Long-time running game show Jeopardy, as you know, made a career upon actual factual data. Meaning, of course, the more you know, the more money you can gain. And even if you are very good at this, you'll not only gain more money, but you actually can accelerate to the title of being called a Jeopardy champion. As you know, that's no easy feat. That's not easy to do. And the reason I mention all of that is simply for this. When we are certain of our faith, when we are sure of our faith, it means for us three things. First, that there is no doubt in our mind at all as to its validity. Second, it has also been tested and it has been proved to be both accurate and true. But the foundational thought here is the third. The level of faith that you possess is consistent with the amount of time and effort that you give to the Lord. And while some may want to debate that, there's a certain underlying truth in all of this. Bottom line is this: you either have enough faith to qualify you to be a person of faith, or you do not. And the reason we illustrate this is because of this reason. In Hebrews chapter 11, it is chock full of some of the ancients, and what I mean by the ancients is some of the Old Testament players and characters before Christ that displayed many remarkable things, that did many things by faith, who came before us, and so that you understand where all this is coming from, let me just highlight just a few of them for you as it is outlined in Hebrews chapter 11. Because first of all, we read in verse 4, "By faith, Abel offered God a better sacrifice than Cain did." Verse 5, "By faith, Enoch was taken from this life, so that he did not experience death." Verse 7, "By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear built an ark to save his family." By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place that he would later receive as his possession, he obeyed and he went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, Abraham, verse 11, even when he was past age and Sarah herself was barren, was enabled to become a father because God became faithful in giving him this promise, and Abraham became faithful in accepting the promise. And on we could go with many other illustrations throughout chapter 11 with regard to people of faith. But the one thing I want you to note here is verse 13. All of them knew, collectively, all of the players from and the ancients of the Old Testament era, all was well aware of the greatest promise that God had given to them, and that would be the promise of his one and only Son, Jesus, the Messiah, that would come into this world and save the people from their sins. They were all aware of this great promise, and this is what they looked forward to. But verse 13 says this, all these people, all the ones that are described in chapter 11 and beyond, all of these people were still living by faith when they died. They were faithful clear to the very end. However, they did not receive the things that was promised to them, namely Christ. They only saw them and they welcomed them from a distance. And this becomes extraordinary for us because when we begin to read this narrative, we realize that they knew what was coming, and yet they were faithful to the very end, even though they did not get to see the promise that was given to them. I want you to understand this, that all of the ancients who are now occupants of heaven, and there's no one who would ever question that, all of these people, not only mentioned in chapter 11, but beyond, clear up until Jesus came to us, all of them are a part of God's heaven. And the thing that's extraordinary about this is simply this, is that all of them are standing on heaven's edge looking down upon us, and they are cheering us on as his people. As a matter of fact, it even gets crazier than that, a little deeper. They are hopeful that your faithfulness will be even greater than theirs. You see, our advantage and our privilege, as chapter 12 verse 2 says, we have firmly fixed our eyes upon Jesus. We have the advantage now to know Jesus even after the fact. Because what's extraordinary here as we look at this chapter, chapter 11, this was only a promise and a prophecy for them. So they saw it from a distance. We now are able to see it face to face. So what I want you to understand by all of this, and the lesson that we gain from this, is this. This in no way diminishes their faith, those who lived before him, or our faith who now lives after him in his human existence here upon earth. From the ancients to those who were eyewitnesses of Christ, for us today, we all collectively have received the promise, and that is Jesus. People of faith who occupy our world, I believe, are truly unable to hear the audible cheers that come from heaven, although I have talked to some who have claimed that they have heard those cheers, but that's for another lesson for another day. The bottom line is for most of us, we don't hear those audible cheers, but like the song says, I can imagine what that must be like. To hear them cheering us on and to know that they want us to achieve even greater heights than they did. For me, the closest thing that I've ever experienced with regard to this kind of scenario came a couple of decades ago. I went to a Promise Keepers rally, a movement designed to energize a man's Christian walk with the Lord. And it took place at RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C. former football home to the Washington Redskins. And the thing that was extraordinary about this particular event, I remember, as vivid as it was then, I remember over 50,000 men singing to the top of their lungs, Amazing Grace. I could only get halfway through the song because it was so moving. Never have I in my lifetime ever experienced or was so moved in worship and praise than I was there. For me, it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. But for me, it was also one more thing, and that was this. It was a preview of what is yet to come. My mind sometimes runs wild as I think about seeing loved ones, family, friends, the ancients, people like Moses, Elijah, Noah, even Father Abraham. I can't wait to have a conversation with him. To see and to interact with Jesus' disciples, that's going to be special. However, the thought of coming face to face with Jesus goes way beyond my imagination. The point that I want to make here is simply this. This pandemic has forced us to think about life. Certainly no one wants to be infected by COVID-19, and certainly no one wants to die from this virus. But the truth is, the possibility does exist. And as scary as the thought of that is, as scary as the crisis is, I have been very concerned not only about the scores of people who have not complied, but mostly to those who have given very little thought about actually dying from this virus. Let me help to illustrate the point here. These people live by faith. So when we look at that collectively, we look at it with regard to our situation today, I want you to know and understand that even if this virus takes us out of this world, to die is to gain. People of faith have some place to go. The outlook for them is very, very good. However, people who are not paying a whole lot of attention or have given very little thought to, people who have defiantly and purposely not listened, are in fact the people that the Lord is trying to get their attention so that they may understand and know that life can be short. For those who have turned a deaf ear to His promises, to His warnings, and to His commands, I would want to say to them, you will be judged by Him. In fact, in the 10th chapter in Hebrews, verse 31 says, that it shall be for them a dreadful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. Thus, in conclusion, let me just say this. While our world and our circumstance and our environment and our standards of normalcy, our procedures, our routines, our social interactions, yes, even our worship, and many, many, many more things, has in fact changed. It has changed our lives. Yet I would remind you that the Lord and His love and His Word and His Spirit has not. People of faith can attest to this. Our stay-at-home orders has limited our outreach, but it has not limited our prayers or our concern or even our actions to help and provide for those who are in need. I want you to know that the occupants of heaven are in fact cheering you on. May your faith be strong. May there be peace in our disrupted world. And may our thankfulness be heard throughout all of heaven's dwelling. May your joy be made complete as you fix your eyes upon Jesus. May his hedge of protection, may the Spirit of the living God dwell in and among you. May we listen carefully for his guidance and for his direction. May we be united in purpose and in love, and know that the Lord is with you in all things. And to God be the glory.